Okay, chemistry, we're doing the next section now. We're going to talk about limiting and excess reactants. We're still doing stoichiometry, so I know you're excited about that. So you have two papers that I have attached. One has some pictures on it, and one is just the answer sheet. So you can actually just write on the one with the pictures if you want. So for first one, for model 1, we're going to talk about sandwiches. Okay, so let's first see what it says at the top. For most chemical reactions, the reactants, remember reactants are the things that you start with on the left of the arrow, are not present in the exact amount specified by the ratio of the balanced chemical equation. So remember how we look at those ratios or the list of the coefficients? Sometimes we don't have the exact amount of each one, the exact ratio. So most likely, one of the reactants will be consumed first. So we're just going to look at some examples here with things that are not chemical reactions first, and we're going to get into chemical reactions. When preparing sandwiches for a party, there's a recipe for specifying the ratio of slices of bread, lettuce, tomato, and ham. If the slices of bread are used up first, despite having plenty of lettuce, tomato, and ham, no more sandwiches can be made. That's the kind of thing we're looking at. So here, model 1, they've given you some numbers of bread, ham, tomato, lettuce, and a recipe for one sandwich. All right, and you've got a bread, ham, lettuce, tomato. All right, and you've got this little chart right here. So we've got starting count right here. Then we have number used, and we have number left over. And up here we have bread, ham, lettuce, tomato, and sandwiches. Okay, and they've put a 0 here and an A here. So you're going to fill in the rest of this. They gave you a recipe for sandwiches. Each sandwich must have 2 slices of bread, 1 piece of lettuce, 3 slices of ham, 4 slices of tomato. Okay, that's what one sandwich is. So our starting count, I'm going to fill in the first line for you. Our starting count is 16 pieces of bread, 18 slices of ham, 7 pieces of lettuce, and 16 slices of tomato. That's what we've got right there. Now I want you to figure out how many sandwiches you can make with what they've, not the 0, with what they've given you. Okay, how many sandwiches you can make with what they've given you right here. And you're going to put the number of sandwiches right here that you can make. The most sandwiches you can make with 16 slices of bread, 18 slices of ham, 7 lettuce, and 16 tomato, with using that recipe they gave you. So go ahead and fill in the numbers right here and how many sandwiches you can make. And then down here is how many you have left over. But let's say you only use 10 slices of bread. So then you would put a 6 here. I'm not saying that those are the numbers. You figure out how many sandwiches you can make, and you finish filling in this chart and answering the questions. Look at the questions. How many sandwiches can you make? How many slices of bread do you have left over? Which of the ingredients are in excess? That means which ingredients do you have more of than you can actually use? Which of the ingredients were completely consumed in making the sandwiches? Which ingredient limits the number of sandwiches? okay? And then try to define the term limiting ingredient. Which ingredient limits the number of sandwiches? So you can't make any more sandwiches because you don't have any more ham, or you don't have enough lettuce, or whatever it is. So go ahead and finish that. And then we're going to move on to model 2. Okay, model 2, we have chlorine, hydrogen, and magnesium. We have magnesium. Here's our equation. All right, and you've got two, I'll use black. You've got 2 circles here. And they're telling you up here, I'll try to do this. I don't have purple, but green is going to be chlorine. And yellow is going to be hydrogen. And I'll use blue because I don't have purple. Blue or purple for you is going to be magnesium. Okay, those are the 3 things we have in this equation right here. So this first one here is labeled before reaction. Okay, look at the before reaction. We have magnesium by itself. So that means we can have, and they in there have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So magnesium's by itself. Okay, and over here is after the reaction. So, and before a reaction, we have HCl. So we have 1 H for 1 Cl. So we're going to have to put chlorine, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. They have 6. And they are joined with a hydrogen atom because HCl. So that's what we have before the reaction. Now, what do we have after the reaction? We have 1 magnesium for 2 chlorine. So we would have to do something like this. 1 magnesium for 2 chlorine. And we have H2. So we have groups of 2 hydrogen atoms. So you need to finish drawing the after reaction. With what you're given in here, how many of these things can you make in your after reaction? Okay, so what I have drawn right here, I've already used 1 magnesium and 2 chlorine, and I've used 2 hydrogen. So how many more of these? You have to draw them so they look like this in the after reaction, because that's what's here. How many more can you draw with what's left in the before reaction? So I want you to go ahead and finish that. And then you can fill in your little chart that they have that is before the reaction, after, and leftover. And you're going to do that for magnesium and HCl and MgCl2 and H2. Now, these are, you don't have any of those left over because you didn't start with any of those. Okay, so before the reaction, you're going to put what you have in these numbers, and then after the reaction, and then see how many you have left over. Okay, then you're going to answer the questions. How many H2 molecules will form? What reactant is in excess? That means which one has some left over, and which reactant limits the number of hydrogen molecules produced. Okay, and then define the term limiting reactant there. So we are, just so you know, this will be 0 and this will be 0 because we're not, before we don't have any of those. And after the reaction, we don't have any of these. Well, I guess there could be some left over, but we don't have any after the reaction. Okay, so I want you to finish those two for homework. We're not going to do model 3. Okay, just model 1 and model 2, and finish those and turn them into Google Classroom. And then we will do the notes for what really limiting and excess reactants and is in a chemical reaction. This is just to kind of get you started and see what we're looking at.